It's 2 a.m. and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying that conversation from 3 days ago where you said something slightly awkward, and now you're convinced everyone thinks you're weird. Or maybe you're thinking about that text you sent 6 hours ago that still hasn't gotten a response, and suddenly your brain is writing a full documentary about why this person definitely hates you now. But here's the crazy part. When you woke up this morning, you felt totally fine. You had your coffee, you went about your day, maybe even laughed at a few things. And that same worry that's eating you alive right now at midnight didn't even cross your mind once during daylight hours. So what's happening here? Why does your brain turn into an anxiety factory the second the sun goes down, but during the day, you're basically a functional human being? If you've ever wondered why nighttime you and daytime you feel like two completely different people, you're about to understand exactly what's going on in your mind. And trust me, once you know this, you'll never look at your late night thoughts the same way again. So first, let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain when the lights go out. Because this isn't just you being dramatic or overthinking for no reason, there's actual science behind why your thoughts spiral at night. During the day, your brain is constantly busy. You're getting sensory input from everywhere, you're seeing people, hearing sounds, responding to messages, making decisions about what to eat, where to go, what to do next, and all of this external stimulation keeps your mind occupied and distracted from dwelling on things. But when night comes and you're lying in bed, suddenly all that external noise disappears. The world gets quiet, the distractions fade away, and your brain is left alone with nothing but itself. And here's where it gets interesting. Your brain doesn't actually like being idle. It's wired to solve problems and process information. So when there's nothing external to focus on, it starts scanning internally for anything unresolved, anything that might be a threat, anything that needs attention. This is where overthinking begins. Your mind starts pulling up every uncomfortable moment, every pending decision, every possible worst-case scenario, because in the absence of real problems to solve, your brain creates hypothetical ones just to have something to work on. Now, here's the part most people don't realize. Your emotional regulation system is significantly weaker at night. There's a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is basically your voice of reason, the part that keeps things in perspective, reminds you that you're probably overreacting, and helps you think rationally about situations. During the day, when you're well-rested and alert, your prefrontal cortex's activity is functioning at full capacity. So when a worried thought pops up, you can quickly evaluate it and usually dismiss it as irrational or not worth stressing over. But at night, especially when you're tired, your prefrontal cortex's activity decreases significantly. Meanwhile, the amygdala, which is your brain's fear and emotion center, becomes more active. So you essentially have less rational thinking power and more emotional reactivity happening at the exact same time, which is why that small thing that wouldn't bother you during the day suddenly feels like a catastrophic problem at 1 a.m. Your brain is literally less equipped to handle emotional content when you're tired, so everything feels more intense, more personal, and more threatening than it actually is. But wait, there's another layer to this that makes it even worse, and this is something I found absolutely fascinating when I learned about it. Your body's stress hormone levels follow a natural rhythm throughout the day, and cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, actually drops to its lowest levels at night to help you sleep. Now, you'd think that would make you calmer, right? But here's the twist. When you start overthinking and stressing at night, you're triggering your body to release cortisol when it's not supposed to. And because your baseline is already low, even a small spike feels disproportionately intense. It's like if someone whispers to you during a concert, you probably won't even hear it. But if someone whispers the same thing in a completely silent room at night, it sounds super loud. That's essentially what's happening with your stress response. The same worried thought that your brain could handle during the day becomes overwhelming at night because your entire system is in a different state. Plus, there's the darkness factor, and I'm not even talking about being afraid of the dark. I'm talking about how the absence of light affects your psychology. During the day, sunlight and bright environments naturally boost serotonin production, which is a neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood and makes you feel more balanced and optimistic. When it's dark, your body starts producing melatonin instead, which makes you sleepy but also can make you feel more withdrawn and introspective. This shift in neurochemistry genuinely changes how you perceive the exact same situations. So that thing you laughed off at 2 p.m. might feel deeply upsetting at 2 a.m., simply because your brain chemistry is changed. And here's something that'll probably hit home for a lot of you. Nighttime is when you have the least social support and validation available. Think about it. During the day, if something's bothering you, you can text a friend, talk to a coworker, get someone else's perspective, and usually that external input helps you realize you're overthinking or gives you reassurance that calms you down. But at night, everyone's asleep. You can't reach out without feeling like you're being annoying or needy, so you're stuck alone with your thoughts with no reality check from the outside world. Your mind just keeps looping the same worries over and over, building them up bigger and bigger because there's no one there to interrupt the spiral and tell you you're being irrational. It's like your thoughts are in an echo chamber where they just keep getting amplified with nothing to balance them out. Now, here's where this gets really practical, because understanding all of this is great, but you're probably thinking, okay, so what do I actually do about it when I'm lying awake at 3 a.m. convinced my life is falling apart? Let me give you some strategies that actually work based on how your brain functions at night. First, and this is crucial, you need to recognize that nighttime thoughts are not reliable data. This sounds simple, but it's genuinely life-changing when you internalize it. When you catch yourself spiraling at night, literally say to yourself, either out loud or in your head, this is a nighttime thought, and nighttime thoughts are always more intense and less rational than they actually are. I'll evaluate this in the morning when my brain is functioning properly. You're not dismissing your feelings or pretending the problem doesn't exist. You're just acknowledging that your current mental state is not the best time to make judgments about reality. It's like trying to make major life decisions when you're drunk. Your brain is temporarily impaired, so you postpone the decision-making until you're sober. Same concept here. Postpone the overthinking until daylight when your prefrontal cortex is back online. Second, you need to interrupt the thought loop with something that requires active mental engagement, because just telling yourself to stop thinking about something never works. Your brain will keep going back to it. Instead, you need to give your mind something else to focus on that's engaging enough to break the spiral, but not so stimulating that it keeps you awake. Some people find that counting backwards from 300 by threes works really well because it requires just enough mental effort to occupy your mind, but it's boring enough that you'll eventually drift off. Others prefer visualization exercises, like imagining yourself walking through a house you used to live in and trying to remember every single detail of each room, or mentally designing your dream house room by room. The key is that it needs to be detailed and immersive enough to crowd out the anxious thoughts. You're basically giving your brain a different puzzle to work on instead of letting it obsess over your problems. Now, third, and this might sound counterintuitive, but if you've been lying there overthinking for more than 20 minutes, get up. I know it feels like you should just force yourself to stay in bed until you fall asleep, but research actually shows that staying in bed while anxious trains your brain to associate your bed with stress and overthinking instead of sleep. So get up, go to a different room if possible, do something calm and low-key, like reading a boring book or doing some gentle stretches under dim lighting. Not your phone screen though, because blue light will wake you up even more. Stay up for about 15 to 20 minutes until you actually feel sleepy again, then go back to bed. This helps reset your mental state and breaks the association between your bed and anxiety. Fourth, create a buffer zone between your day and sleep, because a lot of nighttime overthinking happens because you go straight from high stimulation activities to trying to sleep, and your brain hasn't had time to process and decompress. Try implementing a wind-down routine that starts at least an hour before bed, where you do progressively calmer activities. Maybe the first 20 minutes you're tidying up or doing light chores, the next 20 minutes you're reading or journaling, and the final 20 minutes you're doing something really relaxing, like taking a warm shower or doing breathing exercises. This gradual transition gives your brain time to shift gears instead of expecting it to go from 100 to 0 instantly. And here's something specific you can try during that wind-down time that's incredibly effective. Do a brain dump. Take a piece of paper and literally write down everything that's on your mind. Worries, tasks you need to do tomorrow, random thoughts, things you're upset about, everything. You don't have to solve any of it or organize it. Just get it out of your head and onto paper. This works because it externalizes your thoughts. Once they're written down, your brain can relax a bit because it knows information is stored somewhere and doesn't need to keep reminding you about it. It's like your mind is holding all these mental tabs open, and writing things down lets you close some of those tabs so your brain can actually rest. Now, fifth, watch what you consume in the hours before bed. And I don't just mean caffeine, I mean emotionally charged content too. If you're watching intense shows, reading stressful news, or scrolling through social media where you're constantly comparing yourself to others or getting into arguments in comment sections, you're essentially feeding your brain a bunch of emotional material right before you try to sleep. And then you wonder why you're lying awake processing it all. Try to make the last couple of hours of your day emotionally neutral. Save the heavy stuff for daytime when your brain can handle it better. And finally, here's something that really helps reframe the entire experience. Remember that nighttime you is not the real you. It's a tired, neurochemically altered version of you with impaired judgment and heightened emotions. Daytime you is actually closer to your true baseline. So when you're lying awake at night convinced you've ruined your life, or everyone hates you, or nothing will ever work out, remind yourself that this is temporary